All right. Well, this is exciting. We have our next installment of the Invisible House saga, and we're going to try to have a conversation here and keep this as vague as possible, as to not incriminate anyone involved in the conversations. So, insert all the disclaimers.
Yes, well,
And
as the attorney for the owner, I'm going to make sure that I abide by that for sure.
Perfect. All right. So, Andy, since we posted these videos, I mean, I have everybody. My phone is blown up. It's just the craziest thing ever. How many people are texting me? What's going on? Can we get an update? And I keep telling them, and the words I've been using has been, it's just been a shell game.
Mhm.
You're much more versed in how we got to the point where I got called in. So
Right.
could you just unpack for us the story? Maybe we could use like contractor A, B in a
Oh, by the way, the owner had given this first contractor like a $75,000 deposit, and so to
contractor
start
A,
work
owner
in the first
pays
place,
$75,000 to contractor A. Contractor A
contractor.
says, a life's got in the way. I got a problem. Don't get my homework. We're going to give this to a contractor B who the homeowner knows already.
Yes, right.
Okay.
So hire contractor B because he's worked for me, and and I'll make sure that I'll give him the 75,000 you gave me, so it can go towards your project. So she signs a new contract with contractor B. Doesn't find out till much later that the 75,000 never made it to contractor B. But it seemed the contractor B was willing to work around that. Like, there's a different contractor, a contractor C, his name was on the new the documentation she signed to transfer the permit. And
And
so
it
now is
wasn't.
it
So now
yep.
she has a
So
contract
contractor
with C, but is talking to B.
so she has no she only has a contract with B. B is unlicensed, as it turns out. So contractor B is unlicensed, and that's who her new contract is with. She doesn't even know who contractor C is. And she's dealing only with contractor B. Things we can, we have some of our own ideas that we think will be great for your property, if you're willing to spend another, 70, $80,000 on top of the money you're already willing to spend. And she was convinced, so that, okay, yeah, let's try some of this. And that would require a redesign. So, and she had moved out of the house because it was going to be an entire home renovation anyway. Knew it was something she wasn't going to want to live through, and it would be easier, for certainly if it was an empty home, for the contractor to do the work they had to do. So she had already she had already moved out of the house. She'd already had her stuff in storage. She was already living elsewhere.
This isn't the first time we've seen contractor A, and
Right.
correct. And
Correct. We've seen
and I
contractor A
learned,
before.
yeah, and I learned sitting next to contractor C that contractor C had dealt with contractor A on other projects. Well, A and B,
Mhm.
and but contractor C was making themselves out to be the rescuer,
Mhm.
really trying to play the sympathy card. Where my hair went on fire in my last video that I took from the car was, they had asked me, well, maybe it really a big deal that maybe I had higher standards than the electrician that was on that property. And that's when my hair went on fire. I'm like, wait a minute, you mean like life safety? Like, I didn't realize like life safety was like a good contractor doesn't mind
Subjective.
about like maybe having some kid get electrocuted. Like,
As a lawyer, there's generally two sides to every story. There's three sides to every story, right?
got the permit. Remember, it was a renovation permit, and we had to
Mhm.
change that to, there was no demo permit. They were completely not allowed to take that house down. And what we did, my firm did, is we came in and we took their name off the permits and got a new permit put in place. We did that. And the own attorney said, my client changed the permits. The permits are in his name. What do you want to do about them? And in the meeting, Andy, we were like, we really don't need you
Yeah.
anymore. You're off the
Right.
team. And
Yeah.
and that was for me, not doing this every day. I was like, awkward. That's really that's really you. I have a redacted version of the invoice that our client, independent clients, you're representing them in the law fair, and I am now helping them as their owner's rep, go from
Yep.
an invisible house to hopefully one day a house. And I had asked the homeowner, I said, hey, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? And she said, oh, that's easy. I'll send it to you. And I want to share with you what she sent. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go. This is an invoice, a letter that she got. There's no license number. I redacted the logo of the company and the name of the company. There's no address. There's no license. Andy, doesn't every single document that a licensed contractor have to include their license?
Yes, that's required by statutes. Absolutely.
By statutes.
Yep. It's unfortunately not unusual to have documents like this floating around with no license number on it whatsoever. Contract with no license number on it. It's too bad that we have to deal with stuff like this in the state of Florida.
Right. But listen, I just wanted to show this whole document. I'm going to zoom in so everybody can that's at home can read this. So if you look at this thing, upfront into production first payment would be $101,209. Oh, but they broke it up and said, no, only give us $25,000 for signing and engineering and $76,209 for metal. That's it. That's a really great description. Oh, would you pay $76,000 for metal? Like, metal what?
76,209. It's a very specific amount of metal.
Yeah, I got a bag of bolts from a big box store. And she's already out $75,000 to the first contractor, and now these new folks want $224,944, and there's no work. Oh yes, they did demolish her house by this point. Her entire house is gone, but I there were payments made for that already. I mean, anyway, look, the point of this thing is, this is such a test case of what not to do. There's so many red flags here. We can. Do you have anything more that jumps out?
Yeah, I love the last paragraph when they talk about how much time this job is going to take. Right? If all the stars and planets align, you could possibly there's a typo too. You could possibly be in your new home with your cats in July or August.
Yeah, what year?
Right? If all the planets and stars align, I didn't realize that was a condition to performance under a construction contract.
Listen to me. This was dated March 5th. There is nothing, just so everybody knows, like I was on site on there. There was nothing. There was a slab. There was no power. They disconnect the power. You had a live wire on the ground. And you're going to go from March in July of August to build a whole new home? No freaking way. No freaking way. They didn't even have permits. I'm lucky to get permits. My hair's on fire. My hair's already on fire. All right. So, Andy, I want to we'll make this quick. I want to show you what we do, what we recommend the payment schedule should look like. Now, Andy, you've never seen this before, so this will be fun. And listen, I just want to know, my license number is not on this thing. This is just a working document. This is not something that goes to my customers. I probably should do that, but insert disclaimer here. This is just for, this is a teaching tool, an education tool. So what we do is, and this is I just made up a project, $358,000 project. And we have about, I think, 24 benchmarks. Okay. Deposit to schedule, blah, 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 blah. And you'll notice real quick that it's a bell curve.
Yes.
It's to represent a bell curve. And what we tell our clients is, listen, you're going to be out of pocket in the beginning, $2,500. That's the deposit. And at the end of the project, I'm going to be out of pocket a similar amount. In this case, it's a little bit more, $2,848. And I don't want to do anything that is one-sided. To me, that is just bad business. It should be, if I'm asking for a deposit up front, I should be willing to withhold the last amount. And I'm not a bank, and I don't expect the homeowners to pay for things that they don't have. That's unreasonable. And one of the things that we do, and I'm just going to make this quick, is with General Lumber ordered, we show the receipts. We show them that, hey, we ordered, here's the receipt for $4,000 worth of lumber or $6,000 worth of lumber. Here's the ticket for the windows. So we're backing it up. I'm not saying take my word for it. Typo, it's delivered, not delivered, whatever, I spelled them wrong. So look, this invoice, they're going to see a dumpster on the property. They're going to see the backhoe on the property for this benchmark. Now, here's the important part. This is where every builder I talk to, because I give this speech or this talk to builders, is builders go, well, I don't have the back office. I can't send out 24 invoices. No, neither do we. The invoices are separate from benchmarks. But benchmarks that is the, Andy, why don't you explain that? Explain what a difference between a benchmark and an invoice is.
Yeah, I mean, so benchmarks, you might hear the term milestones. I mean, these are sort of, when you hit a certain, when something has been done, what you've done here is you've broken down the project sequentially and into manageable bites, right? That it makes it a little easier for an owner to understand, how the job is progressing and sequencing, and associated with each of those things is a certain dollar value that is agreed between you and the owner up front. So there's no question that when something is done, something that's verifiable and observable by the owner, they will see, okay, here is where, Coppola Brothers has earned, this payment. Doesn't mean that the second the windows are ordered, they receive an invoice for that and your hand is out for the 5,000, but you invoice at more predictable intervals, right? Maybe on a monthly basis, that would be an example, right? Where you're sending an invoice to them for the benchmarks that have been accomplished over the course of that.
100%. So we
So
might
that way
invoice.
there's not 24 payments coming to you. There's many less. Maybe it's 8 or 9, depending on how long the job takes. But it's ultimately going to, cover all of that. But you're just agreeing on what the value is for hitting each of these benchmarks along the way.
And the reason that I like this, I mean, I am all about win-win scenarios. The reason I like this is at the end of the project. At the end of the project, everybody gets to feel comfortable. Okay, we're done painting after plumbing fixtures installed. It, just as you said, it's verifiable. And if there's a problem, it's like the problem is usually just job fatigue. And people are worried, are they going to finish or not? Well, that's fine. You can then, usually what we do is in the beginning, the payments are grouped. I might not invoice, the first, all of these might get invoiced at the same time. And depending on how the job is going, I might invoice a bunch of these, but at the end, like, depending on how it goes. And I tell this to the homeowners, I go, if you're uncomfortable, that's fine. If you want me to invoice you for each benchmark, I have no problem doing it. I want you to feel comfortable. And I think that's the last piece. It cuts both ways. Like, I don't have to be a bank, and you don't have to, like, you're never going to hear me say, well, just trust me or take my word for granted. It's like, you want 24 invoices? No problem. No problem. So
actually, I'll tell you something interesting. That I just had a conversation yesterday with a couple, where one of the they're towards the very end of a job. They've already paid the entire amount of money to the contractor. They're very unhappy with the quality of the work, and yet the contractor, there's one more payment the contractor's going to ask for, but it's 1% of the job. It's a very small amount of money. But the one of the questions they asked, they said, well, they say they are done with, this, with the kitchen cabinets, for example, but they look terrible. Like, they had to drill and re-drill the doors, and we've got holes in them, and there's, gouges, and the things are crooked. Like, at what point is it done? Like, when they say, okay, we're done with the kitchen, we say, no, you're not. You're not done with the kitchen, because I don't accept this quality of work that you did. So how does that work for a legitimate contractor like you guys? Like, when you're working with a good contractor, the bad contractor will say, well, you pay it, and then we'll take care of it in post, right? We'll take care of it in the punch list, and now meanwhile they've got a whole year's worth of work that is now, that they're so unhappy with, that's now supposedly going to be taken.
Andy, I love it. And I'm going to tell our audience, you're going to stay tuned for our next update on that one. And we'll talk about observable versus unobservable. And we're going to talk about quantifying benchmarks. Oh my gosh, it's great. You couldn't even, I didn't even think about that, but we got our next, our video.
Excellent.
Thanks, counselor.
Awesome. Very good. Thanks, Frank.